Today's lesson is Spanish bullfighting, a dying art. Hi, everybody. I'm Roger.
And I'm Mike.
Today we're talking about bullfighting. This is a tradition that you see in Spain. Are you a big fan of bullfighting? Have you ever seen a bullfight, Mike?
I can't say I've seen one live. I've seen them on television or in films. And, of course, there are the great stories of Ernest Hemingway that kind of made bullfighting more famous and well-known around the world, especially the English-speaking world. So, no, I've neither attended a Spanish bullfight or the other Mexican kind, the other tradition of bullfighting. I believe in Mexico, though, they don't kill the bulls. So that's one of the big differences, obviously, from the bull's point of view, a big improvement of Mexican bullfighting over the Spanish variety. But, of course, Spanish bullfighting has a long and interesting cultural history. It may be less popular today than it was in the past, but it is still something that is very important to Spanish people and their traditions in many different ways.
Okay, so let's begin by listening to the first part right now as we introduce our topic for today.
Spanish bullfighting, a dying art? Spanish bullfighting is a centuries-old tradition that has long been an important part of Spanish culture. Typically held in large arenas, bullfights are dramatic spectacles in which matadors, professional bullfighters, face bulls in carefully choreographed performances. However, while bullfighting is celebrated by some for its cultural importance, it has become a subject of controversy.
大家好，第一部分介绍名词 arena， 指体育比赛或表演用的竞技场或是体育场。例如 The crowd pushed into the arena, eager to see the game. 群众挤进比赛场地，急于观赏赛事。或者 Once you are inside the arena, you will have to find your seat. 进入体育场后，你将必须找到自己的座位。
Okay, so again, the title of our lesson for today is Spanish bullfighting. Bullfighting in Spain. Is it a dying art? Of course, if something's dying, it's slowly going away. Somebody could be dying if they have like a terminal disease or something. I'm dying. I'm going to die next week. The doctor only gave me 5 days to live or something like that. But in this particular case, if it's a dying art, that means it's something that was popular for a while, but now it's getting less and less popular.
So let's find out what is up with Spanish bullfighting and why it is described as a dying art. So let's get into the article with our first sentence here. Spanish bullfighting is a centuries-old tradition that has long been an important part of Spanish culture. Yes, I'm sure a lot of people, when they hear of bullfighting, the first country that they would think of is Spain. It is a centuries-old tradition, a tradition that goes back many centuries or hundreds of years, and obviously an important part of the culture. Where do we usually find these events?
Well, typically held in large arenas, bullfights are dramatic spectacles in which matadors, professional bullfighters, face bulls in carefully choreographed performances. So to answer your question, yes, we find bullfights in these arenas. They're usually a ring shape. They're usually round because the bull ring is round. It's not square or rectangular like for other sports. And yes, it's usually held in these large arenas. An arena is a big outdoor stadium. I guess it could be indoor as well. It could be either one. I think arena actually means sand in Latin. That's where they used to have these performances. They did it on sand.
That's right. Gladiator fights were held in arenas, very similar in size often and in shape to the bullfighting arenas that we see today. And these, of course, are dramatic spectacles. Something that is a spectacle is a big show with lots of different things going on. We could talk about a lavish wedding as a spectacle, maybe a big concert with lasers and fireworks. There's a lot to entertain. There's a lot going on, a lot for your eyes to look at and your brain to enjoy. So if it's a big, dramatic performance, we would often call it a spectacle. And in this spectacle of the Spanish bullfight, the main characters are, of course, the bull and the bull's opponent, the matador. That is the name for one of the types of bullfighters. They have different types of bullfighting. I believe if you're on a horse with a lance, you would be a picador, but the matador is the one we often think of with that red cape with the very beautiful beautiful embroidered sort of costume, and then at the end they have swords that they kind of stab into the bull's neck before finishing it off. The matador is the big hero, the big performer in a Spanish bullfight, of course, along with the bull themselves. And these are carefully choreographed performances. That's an interesting word to use when talking about bullfighting. Often with choreograph, we're thinking of a dance performance.
Indeed, and of course lots of performances are choreographed where they figure out where the dancers are going to move, what they're going to move, what the music is going to be. So I guess these are kind of staged, I guess you could say. They have certain levels and certain things that are done at certain times during a bullfight.
So it's sort of like organized or planned or something like that.
You bet. And again, these are matadors, or matadors as we say in English. Matador in Spanish actually means killer. So that's what their duty is, to kill those bulls. However, while bullfighting is celebrated by some for its cultural importance, it has become a subject of controversy. So while it is celebrated by some for its cultural importance, it is true that lots of people still celebrate bullfights because it has some cultural significance to the Spaniards. Still, it has become a subject of controversy. Of course, people are talking about this and they think, yeah, it's something cultural. Yes, it's a tradition that we've had for hundreds of years, but still, it's bad in some ways. Maybe we could consider changing it or getting rid of it.
So let's find out about the history of bullfighting in the next part of the article. Bullfighting dates back to ancient Rome, where it was practiced as a display of bravery and skill. By the 15th century, it had become a well-established practice of the Spanish noble class. Later, during the 18th century, bullfighting was adopted as the sport of the common people. This period also saw the introduction of the style of bullfighting that we know today. For example, matadors began dressing in colorful outfits known as trajes de luces, or suits of lights, and using red capes to attract the bulls. In spite of bullfighting's deep historical roots, the practice has faced increasing controversy in recent years. Animal rights activists argue that bullfighting is cruel and outdated. These concerns are mostly centered around the traditional practice of killing the bull, which often experiences terrible pain during the fight's final stage. Those against bullfighting have succeeded in banning the practice in some parts of Spain, such as the Canary Islands. However, supporters claim it should be preserved as a form of art and cultural expression that is essential to Spain's identity. In responding to animal rights activists, they argue that the bulls are treated with respect and honor, and, when put down correctly, die in a matter of seconds.
第二部分看到形容词 noble 表示贵族的或是高尚的，例如 The noble people in the city lived in the eastern part of town. 该市的显贵人士住在城的东区，或是 The noble leader took care of his people and listened to their problems. 那位贵族领导者善待他的人民，并倾听他们的问题。接着看到名词 outfit 指特殊场合或活动穿的全套服装，例如Denise carefully selected her outfit for the job interview. Denise 为工作面试精心挑选了一套服装。也可以说 Jennifer bought a new outfit for her son's wedding. Jennifer 为儿子的婚礼买了一套新衣服。下一个介绍名词 controversy 表示争议或是争论。可以说 The director's latest film created controversy due to its subject matter. 这位导演的最新电影因其主题引发争议。又或者说 The politician's speech caused a lot of controversy among the public. 这位政治家的演讲在公众中引起了很多争议。
Okay, in the next part of the article, it says bullfighting dates back to ancient Rome. So that's where it began back in the Roman Empire many hundreds of years ago, where it was practiced as a display of bravery and skill. So that's where they had this particular activity, this kind of sport. It took place in Rome. And yes, you had to display your bravery. How brave are you to fight that heavy and aggressive bull? And also, how skillful are you? How can you wield that sword and that cape? And of course, people will be very impressed if you have bravery and skill.
So that was the Romans about 2,000 years ago. And then about 500 years ago, it says by the 15th century, so around the 1400s, it had become a well-established practice of the Spanish noble class. So even though times had changed and the leadership, the people who ruled Spain had changed from the Romans to Spanish kings, this tradition or this interest in bullfighting was still around. So it was an established practice of the Spanish noble class. When we think of nobles, we're thinking of the king and, of course, many of the king's relatives and friends, the lords, the earls, the counts, the dukes of the land, the great and the good. The aristocracy is another word that we might use for noble, the nobility or the aristocracy. And then later, during the 18th century, bullfighting was adopted as the sport of the common people. So it kind of went from being something only for rich, fancy people, the aristocrats or the nobles, to the common people, the average working person could buy a ticket and go to a local arena to watch a bullfight.
And this period of time also saw the introduction of the style of bullfighting that we know today. Okay, so yes, indeed, that's when this happened. Of course, it has changed over time. So it began back in the 15th century, and later it sort of changed into the 18th century, and now it's the form that we know and love today. Now, for example, matadors began dressing in colorful outfits known as trajes de luces, or suits of lights, and using red capes to attract the bulls. So yes, that's what the Spanish means here, suits of lights. A suit is an outfit of clothing. They tend to be kind of bright in gold color or yellow. That's how I remember them. And of course, they have those red capes. A cape is usually worn on your back, like Batman has a cape, Superman has a cape. But here, it's a large piece of cloth that they wave in front of the bull to attract it.
In spite of bullfighting's deep historical roots, the practice has faced increasing controversy in recent years. Okay, that last paragraph was all about the deep historical roots or the long history of bullfighting in Spain and Spanish culture. So we know that. But recently, in the last 10, 20, 30 years, it's faced increasing controversy. So controversy is sort of a topic or an issue in society that often gets people upset, that people have strong opinions about, that some people want to support, maybe like with bullfighting because there's a long tradition, but other people would oppose or would want even to ban or prohibit because they kind of say, you know, that was okay in the past, but things have changed a lot in recent times. Social media, there's a lot of controversy with should kids be allowed to go on TikTok or questions like that. Questions of gay marriage caused controversy in certain countries, not so much in Taiwan now, but in the past or in other countries currently. So these types of social issues where there's big change and there might be generational disagreement. So, you know, some traditional Spanish people would say, oh no, it's part of our culture. Yes, the bulls suffer, but it's something that we've been doing for hundreds of years. And then younger people or maybe foreign tourists might say, yeah, but we don't want to see animals suffering and being killed for our entertainment. So there's strong opinions on this topic.
That's right.
Controversy.
Yep, it's controversial or there is a lot of controversy. And animal rights activists argue that bullfighting is cruel and outdated. So if you're an animal rights activist, you love animals, you're probably a vegetarian, and you want to see animals treated ethically and morally and not cruelly. So they think it's cruel, which means really mean, really bad to another living thing. And it's outdated, which means it's kind of the past and people don't really follow it anymore. Like some old computers, like the Commodore 64 computer. Well, that is really outdated. That's like 50 years old. Nobody uses that anymore. It is old, it is outdated, it is obsolete.
Even my iPod is outdated at this point, and it's not even 20 years old. It says these concerns are mostly centered around or focused on the traditional practice of killing the bull, which often experiences terrible pain during the fight's final stage. Yeah, in some places where they have bullfighting but don't kill the bull, I don't think there's much controversy about it, right? Some people might think that having animals entertain us is bad, but if the animals aren't suffering, most people would say, well, that's okay. But when you kill the actual animal, and each time there's a bullfight, several dozen bulls or many bulls will have to be killed, this obviously gets people upset, especially when they find out the animals do actually suffer. suffer. This isn't a quick death, as we might say. They often bleed to death. They have the muscles in their neck cut. And I think there were other controversies I remember that came out that, for example, they were taking the point off the bull's horns. So if it did catch the matador, it wouldn't hurt the matador. And there were even some stories of them drugging the bulls, kind of giving them sleeping pills before the fight so the bulls wouldn't be so fast and aggressive. And when people heard that the bull is going to suffer anyways, and now we're making it easier for the matador to win the fight, that was another thing I think that added to the controversy.
And those against bullfighting, those who don't support it, have succeeded in banning the practice in some parts of Spain, such as the Canary Islands. Okay, so they're working to get rid of the sport in Spain, and they have been successful in certain parts of Spain. We've got the example of the Canary Islands. They're kind of southwest of mainland Spain there, and they're a territory of Spain, and I guess you can't go see a bullfight there.
There you go. So if you don't like bullfights, head to the Canary Islands in the Atlantic. It is bullfight free. However, back in Spain, supporters claim it should be preserved as a form of art and cultural expression. This is essential to Spain's identity. So these are the people who maybe don't love bullfighting, but think, it's been part of our Spanish culture for so long, we should preserve it, we should protect it and keep it. It's a form of art, it's a form of cultural expression. It has been featured in films and paintings and books and things like that. So, it does inspire artists in some ways. I can see their point in that small topic there. But in responding to animal rights activists, that's the traditionalists who want to keep it, they argue that the bulls are treated with respect and honor, and when put down correctly, die in a matter of seconds. So they're kind of addressing some of the animal cruelty arguments here. They're saying to the animal rights activist, if you're an activist, you're a person who's working in some way to support an idea or a charity or a movement of some kind. If you organize protests, you're an activist. If you volunteer for a charity instead of just maybe donating money, you could describe yourself as an activist. There's something in society you really believe in, and you want to use your time, often your free time, to support this idea and to move it forward if possible. So the animal rights activists obviously want to ban it, but the traditionalists, they argue they counter many of the activists' criticisms by saying the bulls are treated with respect and honor. We kill hundreds of cows or thousands every day to make hamburgers and steaks, and those are terrified and frightened and killed in a factory type situation. Here the bulls are honored, they're respected, they're sort of shown to the audience in a parade, and there's all this wonderful ceremony that goes on. And then when they do put them down correctly, now here when we say put down with an animal, we're meaning kill. That's what we're meaning. If your very old cat has lots of cancer and will never get better, you might make the difficult decision to put the animal down. In other words, kill it in a humane and hopefully cruelty-free way. So if you're putting down an animal, you might be shooting it, you might be using some kind of drug or poison, but you're killing it in a way that will hopefully be respectful to that animal in its time of death. And they say that when the animals are killed correctly, they die in a matter of seconds, so they don't suffer, in other words.
Okay, it's time for us to move on to the third and final part of our lesson. Let's listen first.
Bullfighting's future in Spain remains uncertain. Its popularity has dropped, with fewer events taking place, largely due to changing attitudes among young people. At the same time, some non-violent forms of bullfighting, in which the bull is dodged but not killed, are starting to gain steam as possible alternatives. Therefore, the future of the sport may lie in welcoming these more humane forms, which update the tradition for modern audiences while keeping its core cultural elements.
第三部分看到动词 dodge， 意思是躲开、避开或是回避、逃避的意思。可以说 The teacher dodged the paper airplane that was flying toward his head. 老师躲过一架朝他的头飞去的纸飞机。再看一个例子 Sam was quick enough to dodge the ball and avoid getting hit in the face. Sam 来得及闪避那颗球，以避免脸被球打中。继续看到动词 update， 它表示更新、升级，也可以是为……提供最新资讯的意思。可以说 Ted updated the operating system on his smartphone. Ted 更新他的智慧型手机的作业系统。也可以说 George updated his resume before applying for the job. George 在申请这份工作之前更新了他的履历，最后看到 core 这个单字，它是形容词，指的是核心的或是关键的。举例来说， The core problem is a lack of communication between the department heads and the top tier of management. 该核心问题是部门负责人和最高管理层之间缺乏沟通。或者 The core principles of democracy include freedom and equality for all citizens. 民主的核心原则包含所有公民的自由与平等。
Okay, so bullfighting's future in Spain remains uncertain. We don't really know if it's going to continue. Its popularity has dropped, with fewer events taking place, largely due to changing attitudes among young people. So its popularity has gone down. It's not as popular as it used to be. So there are fewer bullfights going on, and this is mainly because of changing attitudes among young people. Young people just aren't interested in seeing bullfights. That's something their parents or grandparents did. And at the same time, some non-violent forms of bullfighting, in which the bull is dodged but not killed, are starting to gain steam as possible alternatives. So yes, you dodge the bull, you don't actually kill it. If you dodge something, you just get out of the way. Something doesn't hit you. And yes, the bull charges at you and you get out of the way, and I guess you score points for how many times you dodge the bull. That's very exciting.
That could be exciting, and of course the bull will live to fight and play another day. Therefore, the future of the sport may lie in welcoming these more humane forms, which update the tradition for modern audiences while keeping its core cultural elements. So this is hopefully a sort of best of both worlds. It will be more humane. When we talk about humane, we mean not cruel. We mean kind of kind. You're doing something in a kind of way. If you kill an animal in a humane way, yes, you might use medicine or something just to put it to sleep to stop its heart so it doesn't suffer. You're not ripping the animal apart or killing it with a knife by stabbing it in a horrible kind of way. Humane means cruelty-free, or as cruelty-free as possible. And some of these new forms of bullfighting update the tradition. They make it more modern, because we're not so interested in watching animals die for entertainment, so let's make it more modern by making it something kind of like bullfighting, but where the animals don't suffer. And hopefully modern audiences will enjoy that, but still the traditionalists will support it as well, because it keeps the core cultural elements, that brave man or possibly woman in the bull ring, showing their bravery and their intelligence as they fight this powerful, dangerous animal in a sort of dance between a man and a wild beast. We keep all that together, but minus all the blood.
Exactly, so they can maintain their culture and still have bullfights and not be cruel to the bull. Okay, that brings us to the end of our discussion for today. Here comes our Chinese teacher, Hanny.
各位同学大家好，我是 Hanny。 我们今天要来练习篇章结构的题型。这次文章是关于西班牙斗牛，题目有4个空格，但是有5个选项。我们先来看这5个句子吧。 A 选项 Animal rights activists argued that bullfighting is cruel and outdated. 动物权益活动人士认为斗牛残忍且过时。那这句的线索是说，他提到了斗牛残忍且过时。 B, however, while bullfighting is celebrated by some for its cultural importance, it has become a subject of controversy. 然而，尽管斗牛因其文化重要性而受到一些人推崇，但它也成为一个备受争议的话题。那这边要注意转折词 however， 表示说这一句跟前文的语义可能有对比。另外，这句的线索是他谈到了斗牛文化重要性，还有提到它备受争议。好 ，C 选项 On the other hand, the training of a matador requires years of practice and a deep understanding of bull behavior. 另一方面，斗牛士的训练需要多年练习，以及对公牛行为的深刻理解。那这句用到片语 on the other hand 是指另一方面，它可以用来提出不同或相反的观点或事实。那它可以单独使用，或者是搭配 on the one hand 去表达一方面怎么样，另一方面怎么样。而这个句子的线索还有提到斗牛士的训练。好， D 选项 Its popularity has dropped, with fewer events taking place.Largely due to changing attitudes among young people. 由于年轻一代态度的转变，斗牛受欢迎的程度下降，举办的活动也越来越少。 那这句的线索在于他提到斗牛受欢迎的程度下降。好，看到一选项 This period also saw the introduction of the style of bullfighting that we know today. 这时期确立了我们今天所熟知的斗牛风格。这句的关键词语是 this period 这时期，表示说前文有提到某个时期，那他还提到了斗牛风格，也许前后文就会有提到这种斗牛风格的相关描述啊，或者是举例说明。好，那看完选项我们就来做题目吧。第一个空格它位于第一段的最后一句，那前文提到说斗牛是一场精心编排的表演，后续的段落则分别讨论了这个斗牛的历史啊、争议还有未来，所以这个空格应该要填入可以承接上下文，让文章自然衔接到后续讨论的句子。选项 B 说，尽管斗牛因其文化重要性而受到一些人推崇，但它也成为一个备受争议的话题。这句呢，它既能衔接上文的强调的文化价值，又能引出下文对争议性的讨论，所以是正确答案。好，第二个空格它位于第二段，前一句提到斗牛在18世纪成为平民的娱乐活动，那空格后面的句子则以 for example 例如开头来说明这个时期斗牛士的穿着，还有使用红色斗篷来吸引公牛。我们的选项一提到这时期确立了我们今天所熟知的斗牛风格，其中的 this period 这时期正好就对应到前文提到的18世纪，然后还有提到 the style of bullfighting 斗牛风格，就跟后文提到的特色相呼应，所以是正确答案。第三个空格它位于第三段，前一句提到尽管斗牛有着深厚历史的根源，近年来这项习俗却面临越来越多争议，而空格后方的句子则提到疑虑主要围绕在斗牛最终阶段的传统杀生方式，以及反对者已成功推动在西班牙部分地区禁止这项习俗。我们可以推断最适合选项会是 A， 他提到动物权益活动人士认为斗牛残忍且过时，这正好点出了争议的核心，可以流畅的衔接上下文。第四个空格，它前方提到西班牙斗牛的未来仍不明朗，空格之后则提到一些非暴力的斗牛形式作为可能的替代方案开始流行起来，这显示斗牛的发展方向正在改变，因此空格里面应该填入一个描述斗牛现况的句子。那选项 D 他说，由于年轻一代态度的转变，斗牛受欢迎的程度下降，举办的活动也越来越少。这句正好解释了斗牛活动衰退的趋势，跟后面的句子形成转折，所以是正确答案。至于没选到的选项 C， 他说另一方面斗牛士的训练需要多年练习，以及对公牛行为的深刻理解。这句虽然跟斗牛有关，可是不管填入哪个空格都不适合，没办法衔接上下文，所以不是适合的答案哦。好，那以上是今天的讲解，我们就来回顾今天的单字吧。
Arena. Many famous athletes have competed in the arena located just outside the city. Noble. In the Middle Ages, only men of noble birth could become knights. Outfit. Eager to make a good impression, Vicky spent hours choosing the perfect outfit for her date. Controversy. The book has caused considerable controversy due to its handling of sensitive political topics. Activist. The young activist gave a powerful speech about the need for human rights and social justice. Dodge. Fortunately, the pedestrian managed to dodge the bus at the last moment. Update. Bryce thinks we need to update our marketing strategy to reflect market trends. Core. According to the owner, honesty is one of the core values of our company.
Well, that brings us to the end of another edition of our program, and please make sure you join us again next time. From all of us here, I am Roger.
I am Mike.
See you next time.